The 2026 WNBA season, widely considered the most anticipated in the league's history, faces the possibility of being canceled before it begins. While the league has released its official schedule, an ongoing labor dispute places an asterisk next to every game. The situation has transitioned from preliminary negotiations into a high-stakes standoff that threatens the financial stability of the entire organization. Currently, the league is in a state of professional paralysis. While the NBA continues its season, the WNBA remains in a moratorium that has halted all official communication. This period, typically defined by high-profile signings and roster moves, has instead left 80% of the league's players technically unemployed. Athletes now face immediate financial uncertainty as leadership remains divided over the distribution of a revenue pool that has grown significantly in recent years. The core of the dispute lies in the methodology of revenue sharing. The league recently proposed a maximum salary of $1.3 million. While this is a substantial increase from previous standards, the players' union characterized the offer as insufficient. The disagreement stems from the league's proposal to pay players based on net revenue, which allows owners to deduct expenses, including private air travel and stadium upgrades, before calculating shares. The players are instead demanding a $10.5 million salary cap based on gross revenue. This $700 million gap between the two proposals remains the primary obstacle to a resolution. The expansion franchises in Toronto and Portland are particularly vulnerable in this corporate deadlock. Despite paying significant entry fees to join the league in 2026, these teams currently have no rosters. The expansion draft has been delayed indefinitely, leaving these cities to market franchises that do not yet officially exist. Without a swift resolution, these new teams risk entering their inaugural season with depleted rosters, provided a free agency period occurs at all. The rhetoric surrounding these negotiations has become increasingly pointed. Natasha Cloud stated the players would not concede until the league addressed their demands, while Sophie Cunningham characterized the league as a laughingstock following a deadlocked meeting. With 98% of the workforce voting to authorize a strike, the league faces a potential total shutdown. The players appear willing to sacrifice the 2026 season to ensure their compensation reflects the league's recent growth and the increased visibility brought by the current rookie class. Internal reporting suggests potential divisions within the players' union. While the strike authorization vote was nearly unanimous, some veteran players appear ready to maintain a hardline stance for long-term benefits, while younger athletes may fear a strike could derail the current momentum of the sport. This internal tension provides the league with a potential tactical advantage if the union's resolve weakens as the season approaches. Despite the public tension, the league continues to release marketing materials and promotional schedules. However, without a collective bargaining agreement by the end of February, the scheduled May 8th tip-off becomes unrealistic. The projected era of growth for women's basketball is currently overshadowed by a standoff that could leave the world's top talent sidelined. If a deal is not reached, the league's 30th anniversary may serve more as a cautionary tale than a celebration. The coming weeks will determine if 2026 marks a historic breakthrough or the year the league went dark. The financial tension is anchored by the league's recent 11-year media rights agreement, valued at approximately $2.2 billion. This deal, brokered with partners including Disney, NBC Universal, and Amazon, represents a staggering increase from previous valuations, yet it has become a primary point of contention in the labor dispute. The players' union argues that the league's current revenue-sharing model is fundamentally outdated, as it only triggers a 50-50 split after the league meets specific and often unattainable financial targets. Under the previous agreement, players received less than 10% of total league revenue, a figure that stands in stark contrast to the nearly 50% split seen in the NBA. The union's demand for a $10.5 million salary cap is not merely a request for higher pay, but a call for a structural realignment that mirrors established professional sports leagues. The league's insistence on net revenue as the basis for compensation introduces a complex layer of corporate accounting that the union has rejected. By prioritizing net over gross, the league allows owners to subtract capital investments, such as the construction of dedicated practice facilities and the transition to full-time charter travel from the revenue pool before players see a single dollar. Owners argue these investments are essential for the league's long-term viability and professionalization. However, the union views this as an attempt to force players to subsidize the league's infrastructure costs. The disagreement centers on whether these expenses are costs of doing business that should be borne by ownership or shared investments that should reduce the players' take-home pay. The logistics of the 2026 expansion draft further complicate these negotiations. Toronto and Portland were selected as expansion sites based on the assumption of a stable, growing market. Each franchise paid an estimated expansion fee in the range of $50 million. These ownership groups now find themselves in a position where they are paying for the rights to a product that is currently on hold. Without a collective bargaining agreement, the league cannot hold an expansion draft, as there are no established rules for roster protection or salary slots. This delay prevents these new teams from signing coaching staff, securing local broadcast deals, or selling season tickets with any degree of certainty. The longer the stalemate lasts, the more these franchises lose in potential inaugural season revenue, creating a secondary layer of pressure on the league office from its own investors. This financial instability also intersects with the league's prioritization rule, a policy that mandates players return from overseas assignments by the start of the WNBA training camp. In previous years, many players relied on high-paying contracts in Turkey, China, and Russia to supplement their modest WNBA salaries. The prioritization rule was intended to professionalize the league by ensuring its stars were present for the full domestic season. However, with the 2026 season in jeopardy, players are now questioning why they should honor a rule that restricts their earning potential elsewhere when their primary employer cannot guarantee a paycheck. This has led to a resurgence of interest in European leagues, where American stars are once again being recruited with lucrative, multi-year offers that do not include WNBA-related restrictions. The emergence of alternative domestic options has shifted the leverage in favor of the players. The rise of off-season leagues like Unrivaled and Athletes Unlimited has provided players with year-round income and a platform to maintain their visibility without relying solely on the WNBA. These leagues operate on different financial models, often including equity stakes for players. This alternative infrastructure means that, unlike in previous labor disputes, a WNBA lockout does not leave players entirely without resources. For the league's top stars, these platforms offer enough financial security to withstand a prolonged work stoppage, a reality that the league's negotiators appear to have underestimated. Corporate partners are also monitoring the situation with increasing concern. The Caitlin Clark effect brought in a wave of blue-chip sponsors, including State Farm, Gatorade, and Nike, who invested heavily in the league's projected growth. Lupi Clyde and contingent on a minimum number of games played and televised. A canceled or shortened season would likely trigger force majeure clauses, allowing sponsors to claw back millions in marketing spend. The damage to the WNBA brand would be significant. After decades of fighting for mainstream relevance, a self-inflicted shutdown would signal a return to the instability that characterized the league's early years. For sponsors, the risk is not just the loss of one season, but the loss of the momentum that made women's basketball a viable commercial investment. The human cost of this deadlock is most visible among the league's middle-class players. While superstars have endorsement deals and alternative income, the average WNBA player relies on their team's salary to cover living expenses. The moratorium on signings has prevented these players from securing housing or planning their finances for the year. Many are currently training in local gyms at their own expense, without access to team trainers or medical staff. This lack of institutional support during a labor dispute increases the risk of injury, which could end a career before a new contract is even signed. The union's hardline stance is often framed by the media as a battle of millionaires, but for 80% of the roster, it is a fight for basic job security. The role of the WNBA Players Association leadership, specifically Nneka Ogwumike, has been instrumental in maintaining union density. Ogwumike has consistently messaged that the current growth of the league is a direct result of player performance and visibility, not just administrative management. The union's position is that the league's valuation has spiked because of the players, and therefore the players should benefit from that valuation immediately. This is a departure from the wait-and-see approach of previous CBA cycles. The union is no longer willing to accept the promise of future profits. They are demanding a share of the current prosperity. As February progresses, the window for a standard training camp continues to shrink. The league's schedule is built on a delicate balance of arena availability. Most WNBA teams share facilities with NBA or NHL franchises, meaning their dates are locked in months in advance. If the May 8th tip-off is missed, the league cannot simply push the schedule back. They would be forced to navigate a logistical minefield of arena conflicts, potentially leading to a season of games played in smaller, non-traditional venues, or a significant reduction in the total number of games. This would further devalue the product for broadcasters and fans, creating a downward spiral of lost revenue. The debate over charter travel remains a symbolic and practical hurdle. For years, players traveled on commercial flights, often facing delays and physical strain that impacted their performance. The league's recent move to universal charter travel was hailed as a major victory for player health. However, the league is now attempting to use the cost of these flights as a justification for keeping player salaries lower. The union views this as a bad faith negotiation tactic, arguing that professional-grade travel should be a baseline standard for a major sports league, not a luxury that players must pay for out of their own potential salary pool. The historical precedent for this dispute can be found in the 1999 NBA lockout, which resulted in a shortened season and a significant loss of fan interest. However, the WNBA's situation is unique because it is occurring during a period of unprecedented cultural growth. In 2025, television ratings for the WNBA Finals surpassed those of many established men's sporting events. The league is currently a growth stock in the sports world. A lockout at this juncture would be a historic anomaly, a league choosing to stop its own momentum at the exact moment it reached its peak. The internal fracture within the union, while rumored, has not yet manifested in the public sphere. The veterans, who remember the years of empty arenas and minimal media coverage, are motivated by a desire to leave the league in a better state than they found it. The younger players, who have never known a WNBA without national television coverage and sold-out crowds, view the $1.3 million max salary as a floor, not a ceiling. If the league is waiting for the younger generation to break ranks, they may be miscalculating the influence of the veteran leadership. The unity shown in the 98% strike vote suggests a collective understanding that the current moment represents the players' best chance at achieving long-term financial parity. The 2027 draft class, led by Paige Bueckers, is also watching these negotiations with interest. The current labor dispute will determine the rookie scale for the next decade. If the players' union successfully secures a $10.5 million cap, the incoming class will enter the league with a level of financial security previously unheard of in women's sport. Conversely, if the league successfully maintains its net revenue model, the earning potential for future stars will remain capped by the owner's investment choices. It is about the definition of the WNBA's identity as it enters its fourth decade. Is it a developmental project that requires constant subsidization and patience from its workforce? Or is it a mature commercial entity capable of sharing its wealth with the athletes who generate it? The league's refusal to bridge the $700 million gap suggests they still view the WNBA through a lens of scarcity. The players, backed by record-breaking attendance and historic media deals, are operating from a position of perceived abundance. Until these two worldviews align, the arenas will remain empty, and the 2026 schedule will remain nothing more than a document of what might have been. The February deadline is the final opportunity to prevent a localized labor dispute from becoming a permanent stain on the sport's history.